Two guys have Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackey and Judd on SKOR North and SKORNorth.com.
It's our Themes from the Week episode of the OG SKOR North podcast here, Mackey and Judd. And just behind the scenes here, we are literally just coming in hot from like a 50-minute Thursday episode of Purple Daily where we just went, obviously, JJ McCarthy, main subject, deep dive. At one point, Thor picked a fight with Greg Cosell, calling him pal, challenging him to a film breakdown duel. But I think it's worth just kind of getting into the state of quarterback discussion in our country, if we could address the nation here. But a shout out, Judd, to MSP Plumbing, Heating, and Air. The state of HVAC systems is in good hands across the upper Midwest.
And it's incredibly important as we enter these now dog days. It's going to be hot and muggy and sticky again. And MSP Plumbing, Heating, and Air is going to take care of you. Make sure your house is as comfortable as possible. And also in the community, they do great stuff. In fact, they're going to be back at Woodbury Days, August 22nd through the 24th. And they are going to bring the fun. Find them at their booth all weekend long. That's a Friday through a Sunday. And don't miss the Sunday parade as well. A lot of good stuff from our friends at MSP. They've been part of the community for more than 100 years, and they are proud to be back at Woodbury Days. If you have any AC needs, and heck, in the future, plumbing or heating needs, 651-615-4292, or call MSP.com. Call MSP.com. They not only do great work, but they are your neighbors as well.
Yeah. Also, so a quick note for all the men who listen to Mackey and Judd out there, an important message, that there is a massive need for organ donors in Minnesota right now. So only 57% of people in this region are registered on their driver's license or state ID as an organ donor. Meanwhile, 2,000 people in Minnesota and 100,000 people across the country are waiting for a transplant. So, I mean, any of us could wind up. Heck, we met a listener of Purple Daily a few months ago who was waiting for, I believe it was a kidney transplant. And so there's just a long list of people, and there's not enough organs to meet the need. So there's 4 ways to register as a donor. Your driver's license, when you get it renewed or when you apply for a new one, check the donor box. You can go online at life-source.org, life-source.org, in your iPhone health app, or when purchasing a hunting or a fishing license online. So just keep that in mind that the world and Minnesota need more donors. So let's help the cause. What do you guys make of, like, JJ McCarthy has never played a regular season game. He's played 5 minutes of one preseason game. He's been in the league now for a year and a half. We're all like waiting to see this car out of the garage for the first time. What are your thoughts on just like the state of discourse nationally, locally surrounding JJ McCarthy?
It's bizarre. Yeah, it's bizarre. I think that's why I went back to the Purdy thing yesterday when we had Jeremiah on, because Kyle Shanahan is like this quarterback whisperer. He's gotten good seasons out of Nick Mullen, just like Kevin O'Connell has. He's gotten Jimmy Garoppolo. He took Brock Purdy, the 3rd quarterback to play that year, and if he didn't get hurt, they maybe go to a Super Bowl. And everyone just worships him. Same with Sean McVay. They go from Jared Goff, then they bring in Matt Stafford, and it's like, it's great. This guy is just going to work wonders. And I understand, some of those circumstances, like Stafford coming in, was different because he was an established, very good quarterback. But I find it just bizarre that Kevin O'Connell has really done an amazing job at getting also great quarterback play. And there are going to be probably the same criticisms that I do think national and maybe even some other people have about Brock Purdy's like legitimacy, because he's surrounded by such a good coach and such good weapons. I wonder the same thing about McCarthy being in a very similar like car. I know Kevin O'Connell doesn't have the playoff success and hasn't been around as long as Shanahan does, but the entire quarterback discourse to me has, and I'm guilty of this too. I don't like Justin Herbert. Like, I don't think Justin Herbert is that good. I don't understand why everyone props him up and he hasn't proven it just because he's a 1st round pick and he's got raw talent. But again, like, that's just my opinion. So it's sometimes really hard to like sniff through all of the noise.
But that's funny. Your self-awareness here is noble, because to me, Justin Herbert is a great example of people judging something off of like little snippets here and there, important snippets. But if like, is Justin Herbert good? Is a great microcosm for like what makes a good quarterback. If you're just talking about physical attributes, talent, athleticism, arm talent, arm strength, ability to move around, make all the throws, off balance, on schedule, off schedule, all of those things, he's one of the top 6 or 7 quarterbacks in the entire league. Okay, then productivity, you could start to go through like statistical profile and, you know, passer rating, all these, like pretty high up in some of those categories too over the years. Playoff success has been 2 playoff games duds. Yeah. He threw 3 interceptions all year and then throws 4 in the playoff game. And like, yeah, that failure matters in the discourse for Justin Herbert. But what happens is everybody wants to have some sort of black or white ironclad opinion on things, and in this case, a position that is very much in a gray area for evaluation. Included with Justin Herbert is he spent a handful of years with a really bad set of coaches in a kind of a cheap rundown organization, bad defenses, all these things. So like, to bring it to the McCarthy conversation, everybody's trying to hit a home run. And you know what? Thor is too, by the way. Everyone's trying to hit a home run with their JJ McCarthy opinion before he steps foot on the field for the first time. And that's what's kind of crazy. Like Cowherd over here and our guy Thor over there too. And, you know, I love entertaining opinions and everyone's got a microphone and that's great. But part of me is like, damn it, roll the ball out so we can watch him play 15 or 16 games. And then I'll have a much more honed opinion in 6 months from now.
Yeah, I think what's weird about this, though, is there is a definite faction of McCarthy. They're not doubters, they're haters. And Cowherd's one. And Rossini is very like skeptical of him. And that's fine to be skeptical, but like Cowherd, it's almost personal. It's a very weird thing. Like that's my thing is question the kid. I mean, he hasn't played a game yet. That's absolutely fine. That's a good conversation. But when you're convinced he's going to fail, like, and you have heard behind the scenes these things that you won't talk about. I mean, this is really, to me, largely a Cowherd conversation because he is a guy who's got a platform, and I think he's entertaining. I certainly will dip into his show, but I do think that his, if not vendetta, his odd, like, I know stuff about McCarthy you don't know, and I'm not going to tell you what I know, but he's going to fail because of what I know. That's what I think is odd. The Herbert thing is different to me because, look, he's lost 2 playoff games and looked terrible. And, like, that does definitely impact. If JJ McCarthy goes to 2 playoff games after 2 good seasons and he's a dud, then it's like, okay. I mean, if Kevin O'Connell were to lose a 3rd playoff game, we'll be talking about that. But I find it very odd when somebody, like, hitches their career to, this guy is going to fail, and then says, I can't tell you why, or I won't tell you why, but I've heard these things. Okay, as we talked about yesterday. What have you heard? Tell me, is there something behind the scenes? Is there something wrong with the kid that you've been told about? So to me, more than like the McCarthy discussion, it's like, it's a very targeted destruction of why he's going to fail, but you're not telling us, which I find very, very odd.
I want to glue together a couple of these little tentacles. I want to put a pin in the Brock Purdy thing that Declan brought up, because I do feel like McCarthy is setting sail, and even if like his best version comes out, he's like setting sail down the Brock Purdy path in some ways for evaluation. But on Herbert, just back to like state of how people talk about quarterbacks for a second. So Herbert in 5 years has had some of the most prolific passing seasons in the NFL. Like he had a 5,000-yard season in 2021. Where he had 38 touchdowns, close to the league lead. Last year he was among the league leaders in passer rating. You know, he was not throwing the ball as much, but he had a 102 passer rating. He has received MVP votes over the years. He was the offensive rookie of the year. Is he even 27 yet? He just turned 27, I guess, when the league year started. But then the 2 playoff clunkers we ignore everything else. We literally ignore like, boy, he put up some crazy productivity with like objectively bad coaching and bad defenses and kind of brought that Chargers team back to relevance as a competitive team. But because he had the two clunkers, we just like, we write him off. We put him over here. And Lamar Jackson, kind of the same thing where, he can't perform in the playoffs. But Lamar Jackson's not even 30 years old. Isn't it like John Elway didn't start winning Super Bowls till he was like 36?
Right.
So isn't it likely that Lamar Jackson and Justin Herbert, who've been awesome for stretches in the regular season, are probably going to experience some playoff success at some point? Maybe not Patrick Mahomes or Tom Brady.
But they have to. Like you don't get to be,
But don't they get some time?
Elway,
don't they get like 15 years to kind of figure it out?
But it's also worth discussing. Herbert's 2 playoff games can't be erased. Yes,
I'm not erasing them, but people are using them. People are using, and I'm pointing at Declan. People are using, he's been bad in 2 playoff games to wipe out everything that he's done in the regular season
like him
and his
playoff game.
It's true. I've never really
don't like
seen
him.
the hype. I just don't think he's as good as is advertised. I don't. I think there is a lot. There's a more athletic, and I've used it before, and it's a hot take, but I don't care. He's a more athletic and better physically gifted Kirk Cousins. That's what he is to me.
Which means but Kirk Cousins has been one of the top 14 quarterbacks in the world for his entire career until last year. Yeah. So you're saying that Justin Herbert is better than a top 14 quarterback in the league. Yeah. And you're saying it slanderously. And that's my point about the state of how we talk about quarterbacks.
Oh, no, no question. Yeah. But why are we trying? But what I don't get is why are we trying to write them off before they play a game? Like you talk about, hey, Herbert's career, work in progress. But at least we've got some of the progress to talk about. We are literally talking about a guy who missed a season, and there are people saying, well, he's no good. And here's why. Like, he hasn't even taken a snap in a regular season game yet. That's where there's a difference. I mean, once you start to build a resume, let's talk about it. And look, could it be premature? And at the age of 32, could Herbert win a Super Bowl and then another one at 34? Absolutely. And that will change. Imagine what would the Elway conversation have been if he didn't win the Super Bowls at the end? It would be about this great Hall of Fame quarterback who couldn't win the big one.
I agree. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but Herbert's 10 years away from that.
I don't disagree. And by the way, here's what I would tell Declan about the Cousins comparison. And this is not to put Kirk down, but when I saw Herbert in person here, I think it was a game the Chargers beat the Vikings. His ability to get rid of the ball and to throw from different angles was phenomenal. Like the Vikings were pressuring him. They had some good pressure. It was one of those loud U.S. Bank Stadium days. It's hard to operate, and he dissected you. I don't remember a game with Kirk like just picking you apart where you were like, oh my God, our defense is playing well and we can't stop him. That's like a special thing. But again, there are very few players I've seen in person where I'm like, I'm really glad I saw him in person because I didn't appreciate what he's doing on TV as much. And Herbert falls into that category, which I also put Saquon Barkley in as a giant.
Yeah, and there's a good chance, because Jim Harbaugh's done this with pretty much every quarterback he's worked with, college or professional. He's a quarterback elevate. He's a quarterback whisperer in kind of a different way because he's got such a different personality. But Colin Kaepernick, Andrew Luck back in the day in college, you've seen different examples. I mean, Alex Smith. He saved Alex Smith's career, right? Or in San Francisco, and then Smith went on to the Kansas City Chiefs. But so there's a good chance that like Herbert's path will be altered by having better infrastructure called Jim Harbaugh. And that kind of ties it back to this Purdy thing. You can already kind of see where this might be going, where let's say McCarthy plays really well and maybe for multiple years, and he's putting up big individual numbers, and the Vikings are winning games, and God forbid, maybe they even get back to the Super Bowl for the first time since the 70s. Mm-hmm. And the list of people or things that are going to get credit are going to start with Kevin O'Connell and then infrastructure. And Buddy had this, and hell, we're probably going to do this on Purple Daily and in terms of the contract extension. That's what happened to Purdy, in part because he was a 7th round pick too. I think that stock
Purdy
lingers with people.
Purdy to me is a very, well, in some ways he's a very different case because of that. Purdy's success, I think, to a lot of people makes no sense. It's like, guy was the last pick in the draft, right? And here he is. He's the starting quarterback, and he's successful. Like, explain this. How do you fall that far? I feel like Brady, and this passed a long time ago, but I feel like Brady at one time and Purdy now, it's just a head scratcher. Like, how did so many people miss here? JJ McCarthy ultimately, at the end of the day, is a top 10 pick. And I agree with you. O'Connell will get a ton of credit, and he probably might deserve it. But I think but the league won't, like, if JJ is successful, I don't think the league will be like, how did this happen?
But like the infrastructure matters so much, and it's so hard to kind of parse the pie chart of praise apart historically.
Yep.
And the Brady, and I'll throw Mahomes, and Brady and Mahomes, we know what their personalities are now. They're just hell bent on willing their team to victory and all those things. And so regardless of which of the 32 teams those guys would have wound up with, they probably would have elevated those teams to some extent, and they would have found a way to have success.
Here's one.
But like, do you think if Tom Brady gets drafted by the Jets or the Browns, does he have even one Super Bowl? Does he have 2? Does he find a way to will an incompetent organization with a bad defense?
Well, and that's
like Mahomes, same way.
And that's the conversation about the makeup of the person himself. Like, do you have that? Because the thing about quarterback conversations is they're multi-layered. Like, okay, it's smarts, it's athletic ability, it's football intelligence, but it's also can you grab your teammates by their shirt collars, have their respect while doing it. Like Brady had things, and McCarthy, I think personally, I see things that I really like as far as taking control. But I will give you a quarterback discussion that I don't hear probably enough, but I think it's very fair and it's applicable. Drew Brees and Sean Payton. So Drew Brees was a good quarterback for the Chargers, but at the end of the day, they allowed him to walk. And they talked about trading him to the Dolphins. And in his infinite wisdom, I think it was Nick Saban who said, I want Dante Culpepper. And he gets traded to Sean Payton, who, by the way, now, and I do think Sean can be a jerk, but he again is a different breed of quarterback whisperer. And I mean, Bo Nix, who I think the drafting community was like, whatever. Bo Nix has been fantastic. So, like, do we penalize Bo Nix? Do we penalize Drew Brees and say infrastructure was really good? The Saints built a really good one, and his coach was good. So, like, all of these things are so interesting because infrastructure, your team, your coaching is huge.
Yeah.
I would say if you're a Vikings fan and you love JJ McCarthy and you think he's great, then I think if you also say Brock Purdy is overrated and stinks, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing? Because it's almost the exact same car that he's driving. And if you want to use, McCarthy's a first-round pick, Brock Purdy was the last pick, do you want to go down the list, too, of first-round pick quarterbacks that just stink? Because those exist as well. If you don't like Brock Purdy but you love JJ McCarthy, I'm completely confused as what we're looking at here.
If JJ like plays well, that's the thing, we don't know. We have no idea also, what he looks like yet. But then there's also like, okay, Brock Purdy was one of the rare dudes that, like, with great infrastructure, still picked it up real quickly and was able to drive that car. And sometimes it takes maybe guys a little longer, and then they're ready to click in. Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, after a little bit of time. And we just, attentions are much shorter in today's sports and NFL world.
If Baker gets drafted by a competent franchise, which Cleveland was pretty much not when he, and it looks like, unfortunately for Kevin Stefanski, they're back to not being again. But if Baker gets drafted by a competent franchise, because he was immature, he definitely was talented, but there were a lot of things that needed to be smoothed out that he didn't have the luxury of having a franchise that could do that. What's his story right now?
Yeah, well, I think if Baker goes to the Chiefs?
Yeah.
In the same draft, by the way.
I was just going to say the Ravens because Lamar was the last pick in that. So, like, let's say Baltimore gets Baker Mayfield. Like, does he have, to Judd's point, does he have the same type of career? Is he still their quarterback? Are they winning the division all the time? And is Baker Mayfield like a 3-time MVP by year 8 in the NFL?
Well, and I think right now with, again, he's in a far better environment, and he's matured a lot. I think now, like if you could take Baker Mayfield as your starting quarterback right now, I think you'd probably say, yeah, like he's successful, he's good. And the thing is, he just like Darnold. And I don't know about Sam, but again, he gets drafted by a dumpster fire and he's told, fix us. Like these teams are saying, fix us. That's the thing McCarthy has going for him. That's the thing. I'm sure that's a part of the reason why the Patriots made a huge change, right? Because if you see that unfolding and it's like, okay, kid, we're throwing you to the wolves with no help, you're absolutely screwed. So, like, there's just so many things that go into it. And that's not even talking about the fact that, like, JJ McCarthy is 22 right now. You think he's going to be the same person at 25? I don't.
Yeah. I have one more thought on, like, the McCarthy. There's kind of two tracks for it. But the pizza ranking discussion is much simpler. What does it taste like when you sink your teeth into it? Mm-hmm. So from our friends at Pep's Pizza, Green Mill Pizza. So Pep's makes legit pizza, which we've raved about for months and months. They also distribute Green Mill Pizza, the iconic Green Mill restaurant brand that many of you have known for years and decades, a Minnesota favorite, tavern-style pizza at your local grocer. You can also find soft breadsticks and sauces at your local grocer. Learn more at greenmillfoods.com. The Twins are coming back. The Twins are winning some games since the trade deadline. Don't let the Twins get hot, Dex.
That's right. Don't let them get hot. Go watch Luke Keyshaw. Byron Buxton's probably knocking the door to come back, plus all these young pitchers that could also be getting promoted from St. Paul here soon. So go to twins.com to get information on the upcoming series. You can learn about their My Twins membership. Go to twins.com to learn more.
Real quick, last thing on this JJ thing and like how we talk about quarterbacks. There's so many of these like ambiguous, is he good or what is he
elite? Is he elite?
Is he elite? Yeah. And I think there's two different tracks of this conversation. There's how good does he need to be, or more specifically, what does he need to be good at, and how good at those things is he for this year's team that won 14 games last year and hopes to do some damage, right? So not can he be a fully formed product by week 6, but like can he be good at third down must pass, red zone, and just like be good enough at a few things to ride a great defense and improved running game and good infrastructure for the Vikings to win a couple playoff games, right? And then there's what is his peak potential in like 4 years from now when he's emerging into his prime? What does he look like when you start to strip away maybe Jordan Addison via trade or something like that? It's a more nuanced discussion than some of the stuff that I feel like we've heard, especially on a national level, the last several weeks in the last 18 months.
Yeah, absolutely true. Absolutely true. And it will always continue to be like this because it's such a lightning rod. I mean, it's probably the biggest lightning rod position in all of sports, right? Mm-hmm. I can't think of a position in any sport that we talk about on our shows that draws the attention, and we dump it all on one person, and it's like, it is a team game, but yeah, the McCarthy thing, I mean, you got to be patient with it. And and you're right. In 3 years, it's going to look, hopefully, very different. Mm-hmm. Very different.
Yep. So, all right. I don't know. I feel like that was kind of like quarterback frustration word vomit there, but it was therapeutic for us, I feel like. So, yeah, go check out. Listen, Thor was on fire today on the Thursday Purple Daily episode. Judd's camp notes on fire as always. Doogie chiming in on the Vikings depth chart that just came out before this first preseason game. So tons of Viking stuff across the SKOR North podcast. This is Mackey and Judd, the OG SKOR North podcast. See you guys.